Psalm 21. O Lord, in your strength the king will be glad, and in your salvation how greatly he will rejoice. You have given him his heart's desire, and you have not withheld the request of his lips. For you meet him with the blessings of good things. You set a crown of fine gold on his head. He asked life of you, and you gave it to him. Length of days forever and ever. His glory is great through your salvation. Splendor and majesty you place upon him, for you make him most blessed forever. You make him joyful with gladness in your presence. For the king trusts in the Lord, and through the loving kindness of the Most High, he will not be shaken. Your hand will find out all your enemies. Your right hand will find out those who hate you. You will make them as a fiery oven in the time of your anger. The Lord will swallow them up in his wrath, and fire will devour them. Their offspring you will destroy from the earth, and their descendants from among the sons of men. Though they intended evil against you and devised a plot, they will not succeed. For you will make them turn their back. You will aim with your bowstrings at their faces. Be exalted, O Lord. In your strength we will sing and praise your power. This is an interesting psalm because it starts out with this great, wonderful, happy praise, and it ends with a dude getting shot in the face by God. Okay? Talk about the full range of emotions. Okay, so here what we have is David going high and going low, all of that together. This is a full view of life. David is the guy who has a promise from God that his lineage will be preserved and that the king that rules over Israel forever will come from his line. Turns out that was Jesus, and God kept his promise. But he, with this multi-generational perspective, right, with this covenantal perspective that crosses the entire timeline and the whole family tree, he is praying not just against his enemies, but that in the same measure that God has blessed him, that God would judge the enemies. God, you have saved and sanctified my whole family line. Judge theirs. They have come against somebody who has made such great promises. May the punishment be equal to the crime. That's what David's praying for. It's difficult for us to swallow because you and I, most of us, we are not men of war who have been given the job of God, by God, to shed blood in the world, to protect a nation in his name. That was David's entire life. Battles, blood, all the time, just recurring over and over again. And so he prays along these lines, and he prays like a warrior. This is a warrior's prayer. But notice this. He says in the beginning, you have given the king the desires of his heart. You have blessed me. Look at all of this stuff you've done for me. Who am I, your servant, that I should experience such great and abounding blessing? And then he asks, after talking about all that blessing, he asks for the enemies to be judged. Here's what I want you to see. David is operating from a position of approval before the Lord. He's saying, I know you love me. I see that you love me. But I got enemies that hate me. I'm not going to go deal with them right now. I'm going to ask you to deal with them. Here's what he's asking for. David is asking for God to be his advocate. And though we are not called to go and, shore up the borders of a country that will be a theocracy for the name of God and go and fight wars and shed a bunch of blood, stuff like that. That's not our deal right now, okay? But there is an application to our lives here. You and I, we probably got some enemies. We probably got some people that don't like us, right? We probably have, or we will soon if we don't, have situations where we will be tempted to defend ourselves at somebody else's expense. Let me encourage you to try something. Ask God to advocate for you and decide that you will not speak in your own defense. Try it out. Now, I got to be careful. There are times to speak in your own defense. If somebody at work has a false accusation and it's going to cost you your job and your ability to put food on the table for your kids, there's a time to just pop up and say, that's not true, and we're going to get the truth out right now. That's fine. But some of the in-family or interdepartmental character assassinations and stuff, the gossip, the social media nonsense that happens where you get, your inner lawyer just gets put on full alert and he drinks a Red Bull and he's just ready to lash out at everybody, right? Some of that stuff, that normal, just kind of middle school immaturity of life, why don't you just let some of that go? And rather than just letting it go and pretending that it doesn't exist, how about you place it in the hands of God and say, you know what? I don't need to be my own advocate because I have an advocate and he's better at it than I am. Public figures, especially those that represent Christ in public, whether in the media or just, sometimes, pastors and stuff, get accused of things, right? The prophets had a lot of people in the Old Testament and the apostles in the New Testament that were mean to them because they just spoke the truth. And so anybody who desires to live a godly life will be persecuted, right? Somebody's going to come against you just for living for Christ at some point. When that happens, consider the possibility of taking a moment to enjoy the status that God has given you, having adopted you into his family, all of these blessings that you have, and then from that standpoint of worship, just ask him to go and advocate for you with your enemies and be like Jesus, who was silent in the face of his accusers. Give it a shot. Maybe sometimes we get in God's way when he wants to do something because we go and do it for ourselves. He wants us to step back and allow him to show us the salvation of the Lord. Let him be your advocate. He's better at it than you are, I promise.